Hare Krishna devotees, welcome to day 77 of our Bhakti Vaibhava seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam, third canto. And we are in the later parts of chapter 26. We're starting today from verse 59. So first of all, though, let us chant our prayers. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyutyadesha Tarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vanchakalpatarubhyas Cha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yes, so the chapter itself, chapter 26, is titled Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. And like I said, we are now going to start from verse 59. Yes, here we go. The veins of the universal body became manifested, and thereafter the red corpuscles, or blood. In their wake came the rivers, the deities presiding over the veins, and then appeared an abdomen. Okay, so there's a short purport here. The blood veins are compared to rivers. So, in other words, when the veins were manifested in the universal form, the rivers on the planets became manifested. Yes. The controlling deity of the rivers is also the deity of the nervous system, the nervous systems of our individual bodies. So, and Prabhupada concludes the very short purport with a very interesting little point, that in Ayurvedic treatment, those who are suffering from a disease of nervous instability are recommended to bathe in a flowing river. That's interesting, isn't it? That is really interesting. On we go to verse 60. Next grew feelings of hunger and thirst, and in their wake came the manifestation of the oceans. Then a heart became manifest, and in the wake of the heart, the mind appeared. And it's a very short purport. Prabhupada says, the ocean is considered to be the presiding deity of the abdomen, where the feelings of hunger and thirst originate. When there's an irregularity in hunger and thirst, one is advised, according to Ayurvedic treatment, to take a bath in the ocean. Sure, wow, okay. When there's irregularity in hunger and thirst, Ayurveda says, take a bath in the ocean. And then we go on to verse 61. After the mind, the moon appeared. Intelligence appeared next. And after intelligence, Lord Brahma appeared. Then the false ego appeared, and then Lord Shiva. And after the appearance of Lord Shiva came consciousness and the deity presiding over consciousness. Okay, so in the first paragraph of the purport, there's different interesting points. The moon is the presiding deity of the mind. Brahma is the presiding deity of intelligence. Lord Shiva he appears after false ego, and he's the presiding deity of false ego. So this indicates that Prabhupada says that the moon god is in the mode of goodness, whereas Lord Brahma is in the mode of passion, and Lord Shiva is in the mode of ignorance. Yes. So, the appearance of consciousness after false ego indicates that material consciousness is under the mode of ignorance. So one has to purify one's consciousness, certainly. So that purifying process is called Krishna consciousness. And as soon as the consciousness is actually purified, then false ego disappears. So, but otherwise, identifying the body with the self is called false identification or false ego. And Lord Chaitanya confirms this in Shikshastakam. He states right at the beginning, first result of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is that the dirt is cleared from the consciousness, or the mirror of the mind. And then at once, the blazing fire of material existence is finished. That blazing fire of material existence is due to false ego. But as soon as false ego is gone, one can understand one's real identity, of course. One will see oneself for what one really is. Right. So at that point, when it comes to that point, then one is actually liberated from the clutches of Maya. Right. And as soon as one is freed from the clutches of false ego, his intelligence also becomes purified. Yes. And then the mind is always engaged upon the lotus feet of the Lord. So there's a second paragraph, shorter. So Prabhupada explains that the Lord appeared as Lord Chaitanya, Lord Gaurachandra, on the full moon day. Yes, and Lord Gaurachandra, he is the spotless transcendental moon. The material moon has spots, but the transcendental moon has no spots at all. Yes. So, in order to fix the purified mind in the service of the Lord, one has to worship the spotless moon of Lord Gaurachandra. What could be better than doing that? But anyway, Prabhupada explains, those who are in passion, who are in mode of passion, they want to exhibit their intelligence for material advancement. And they generally worship Lord Brahma. Those in ignorance, who they identify with the body, they worship Lord Shiva. And materialists like Hiranyakashipu and Ravana worship Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. But the devotees, like Prahlad and other devotees, they worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the service of the Krishna consciousness movement. Yes, so that's very nice. Verse 62. When the demigods and presiding deities of the various senses were thus manifested, they wanted to wake their origin of appearance. But upon failing to do so, they re-entered the body of the Virat Purusha one after another in order to wake him. So there's very short purport here. I'll just read it. In order to wake the sleeping deity controller within, one has to rechannel the sense activities from concentration on the outside to concentration inside. In the following verses, the sense activities which are required to wake the Virat Purusha will be explained very nicely. Verse 63, the god of fire entered his mouth, he being the Supreme Lord, with the organ of speech, but the Virat Purusha could not be aroused. Then the god of wind entered his nostrils with the sense of smell, but still the Virat Purusha refused to be awakened. There's no purport here. We go on to verse 64. The sun god entered the eyes of the Virat Purusha with the sense of sight, but still the Virat Purusha did not get up. Similarly, the predominating deities of the directions entered through his ears with the sense of hearing, but still he did not get up. These verses don't have any purports. Verse 65, the predominating deities of the skin, herbs and seasoning plants, entered the skin of the Virat Purusha with the hair of the body. But the cosmic being refused to get up even then. The god predominating over water entered his organ of generation with the faculty of procreation, but the Virat Purusha still would not rise. So again, there's no purport. Verse 66. The god of death entered his anus with the organ of defecation, but the Virat Purusha could not be spurred to activity. The god Indra entered the hands with the power of grasping and dropping things, but the Virat Purusha would not get up even then. And there's no purport here either. Verse 67. Lord Vishnu entered his feet with the faculty of locomotion, but the Virat Purusha refused to stand up even then. The rivers entered Lord Vishnu, the Virat Purusha, or Lord Vishnu. The rivers entered his blood vessels with the blood and the power of circulation. But still the cosmic being could not be made to stir. Verse 60, and there's no purport here either. So, verse 68. The ocean entered his abdomen with hunger and thirst, but the cosmic being refused to rise even then. The moon god entered his heart with the mind, but the cosmic being would not be roused. Verse 69, Brahma also entered his heart with intelligence, but even then the cosmic being could not be prevailed upon to get up. Lord Rudra also entered his heart with the ego, but even then the cosmic being did not stir. And there's no purport to this verse. We go on to verse 70. However, when the inner controller, the deity presiding over consciousness, entered the heart with reason, at that very moment the cosmic being arose from the causal waters. There's no purport to this also. Yeah, so verse 71, which does have a purport. When a man is sleeping, all his material assets, namely the vital energy, the senses for recording knowledge, the senses for working, the mind and the intelligence, cannot arouse him. He can be aroused only when the supersoul helps him. Yes, so Srila Prabhupada makes the point. This is the explanation of Sankhya philosophy in detail, in the sense that the Virat Rupa or universal form of the Lord is the original source of all the various sense organs and their presiding deities. So, Prabhupada then goes on to explain that the relationship between the Virat Purusha, the universal form, and these deities, and the presiding deities, or the living entities, is so intricate that simply by exercising sense organs related to deities, the universal form cannot be aroused. If you actually go ahead and start utilizing, operating the sense organs which are related to the deities, still the universal form can't be aroused. So Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, it is not possible to arouse the Virat Purusha or to link with the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead by material activities. Only by devotional service and detachment can one perform the process of linking with the Absolute. Wow, okay. Not by any material activities. Verse 72. Therefore, through devotion, detachment, and advancement in spiritual knowledge acquired through concentrated devotional service, one should contemplate that supersoul as present in this very body, although simultaneously apart from it. Right. So Prabhupada makes the point that we can realize the supersoul within ourselves. He is, so to speak, within one's body, but apart from the body, or in other words, transcendental to the body. Even although he's sitting in the same body as the individual soul, the supersoul has no affection for the body. Yes. Of course, the living entities, they have great affection for their material bodies. Oh, yes. So therefore, one has to detach himself from the material body. How? By devotional service. And when the Lord is served in complete devotion, completely pure devotion, detachment from this world begins immediately. So Prabhupada concludes the paragraph by saying, first paragraph of purport of verse 72, that the purpose of Sankhya is to detach oneself from material contamination. And this is achieved simply by devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And there is a second paragraph in the purport. Prabhupada begins, when one is detached from material prosperity, one can concentrate the mind on the Lord. But as long as we're distracted by the material world, there's no possibility of concentrating the mind and intelligence or anything really upon Krishna, the Supreme Lord, or his partial representative, the representation, the super soul. Yeah. And after detachment, one can attain to transcendental knowledge of the absolute truth. Right. But it's not possible while you're entangled in sense gratification. Can't understand the absolute truth. Just no chance. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 54 is referred to again. So the sort of paraphrasing of the translation is, one who is freed from material contamination is joyful and can enter into devotional service. And by devotional service, he can be liberated. So there's a third paragraph here that Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, there we find it stated that one becomes joyful by discharging devotional service. In that joyful attitude, one can understand the science of God or Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it's not possible. It's just not possible. It's a very subtle, very fine thing, devotional service, Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says that the sum and substance of Sankhya is to analytically study elements of material nature and then concentrate the mind on the supersoul. Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying, the perfection of the Sankhya Yoga culminates in devotional service unto the absolute truth. So there you go, devotees. You know, it's very difficult to calculate. Often it's very difficult to calculate when are we going to finish a chapter. Usually we try and do it so we finish at the end of a 1-hour session. But today, here we are, we've only done 25 minutes. But anyway, that's okay. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.